Hello and warm greetings. Welcome to Analyst presented to you by Vajiram and Ravi. Here we discuss 7 articles in 2 different sections taken from 2 newspapers, The Hindu and Indian Express, consolidating your current affair preparation for UPSC CSE at one place. In the first analysis section, we discuss making new inroads in railways. Amid recent successes of railway projects and a slew of railways upcoming projects, we take a comprehensive analysis of its significance for India's infrastructure sector. Next up, we discuss the topic of From Rank to Cadre, the new UPSC Cadre policy. We discuss this in the light of DOPT recently unveiling the new Cadre allocation policy 2026. We take a lowdown on what changes for UPSC aspirants. In the next simplified section, we take a look at 5 comprehensive articles with a lot of value addition in respect of your prelims 2026. So stay tuned. Starting with the first topic, making new inroads in railways. The topic in front of you showcases 2 news articles, one starting from the strategic locations of Kashmir and another from the coastal state of Kerala. What unites them? Now, the railway system. On one hand, we have for the first time transported a full rake of rice from Punjab to Kashmir, enhancing the food security in the valley. On the other hand, we have Kerala, who is mulling a project worth rupees 1 lakh crore for a high-speed railway transportation system in the state. What does this showcase us? This tells us that the infrastructure sector in India, especially the railways, is up for a large and massive changes. What does this entail for our infrastructure sector? Where does it fit in our syllabus? It does in the GS paper 3, which mentions about infrastructure, port, road, railways. We discuss it from the light of your UPSC Mains 2026. Starting with it, the significance of this news is that on the right side of this PPT, you are able to see the traffic jam that is happening on the tourist spots of northern India, especially Kashmir, Manali, Shimla and all. This showcases that people have been stranded, but what cannot stay stranded is the perishable item, agricultural product, which are very crucial for the food security of the nation as a whole. To solve that problem, at least, we have now been able to utilize the Chenab railway bridge to transport a full rake of rice through a train from Kashmir, from Punjab to Kashmir. This train was carrying as much good as 100 trucks would. It was 2600 metric ton of rice. This showcases an all-weather system of transportation is now available. It is showcasing that a time-efficient system of transportation is now available because it just took around 24 hours to reach from Punjab to Kashmir. This access is not restricted to the food products. It is going to expand the market of the valley towards other materials, including cement, including other construction materials, and also giving access to the mainstream India of Kashmir's products like the saffron called zafran in Kashmir, the Kashmiri apples, the Kashmiri wooden willow beds. All of them would be reaching the heartland of India in a more seamless manner thanks to the expanding railway sector in India. It is not just one location. If we see, there have been a multitude of progress in the railways in India. If we see the numbers, India today stands as having 4th largest railway system, the 4th largest railway network in the whole world. We have around 68,000 plus route worth kilometers. It is also, we have expanded this capacity to the level in the freight trade. We have freight loading has crossed around 1500 million metric ton. If we talk about the track upgradation that has happened, more than 31,000 kilometers of new tracks have been laid since 2014 and more than 45,000 kilometers has been renewed. This also showcases to us that the total capital expenditure allocation has also been on the rise. It is not just the revenue expenditure that we are doing. Apart from these numbers, we are also promoting the idea of sustainable development in railway sector. For railway per se has started the project of targeting net zero carbon emission by the year 2030. This would make it not only promoting the economic growth but also promoting the sustainable and resilient economic growth for India. It is also promoting use of solar and wind energy on station and tracks as well. It is also showcasing us the progress lies not just in the numbers, it has also enhanced the quality of life that we are living. The ease of living standards has enhanced due to these slew of projects. Now we are targeting that from the region of Thiruvananthapuram to the northernmost part of Kerala, which is Kollam, as well as Kannur, we would be able to cover the distance in just mere 3.15 hours, which is less than half of what it takes right now. It is expected to take place with the capital allocation of rupees 1 lakh crore. And it is a multimodal transportation plan that we are having, because there are 4 international airports that would be connected through this new railway line that we are considering, starting from Thiruvananthapuram, including Kochi, including the northernmost Kozhikode International Airport. They have also focused on other regions, for example, the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed railway project being developed with help from Japan. It is also a project in progress. Apart from that, from the freight infrastructure perspective, we have 2 dedicated freight corridors running in our country, from Ludhiana to Sonnagar, from Dadri to JNPT. We have all of them which are enhancing the freight capacity of Indian Railways. The ease of living is being transformed by starting of new trains, for example Vande Bharat trains, for example Amrit Bharat trains. We also have idea of PPP involvement in running of the train, for example the Tejas train that have just begun. Apart from that, what does this contribute to? It showcases that India is making great strides in the perspective of logistics, and this is something that has been accepted by the World Bank itself, because in the World Bank's Logistic Preparedness Index, India's rank has actually improved to 38th position. This showcases that we have come a long way forward in our railway policy, in the progress of railway sector in India. But then there are certain challenges, there are certain concerns with the railways as well. What are those? Starting with the first thing, which is the finances. Despite all these calls, we do not have the finances to finance the greater expansion of railway network in India. You see, the finances of railways are strained because majority of them are cross subsidized. That means the passenger trains do not promote profitization. They are cross subsidized from the profit that we earn from the freight train. If you would have traveled by railway network, on the back of a ticket of railway, they showcases that 57% is the amount that a railway is able to procure, is able to recover from a passenger's ticket. The rest of it, the rest 43% of it, is cross subsidized by the revenue that they earn from the freight. This leads to freight heavy revenue structure. Despite this being the case, the freight in itself has been a big bread earner for railway. It has actually declined over the past few years. Earlier, it used to have a 89% share in all the freight transport. That means of all the freight that would be transported in the country, 89% of that would be transported by railways. Now that number has reduced to less than 30%. And even in this, if we go into the micro analysis of it, of all the revenue that railway earn from the freight, 50% of it is just earned by coal, one single commodity. If we take a macro look, 87% of that revenue comes from 7 major commodities that include coal, which contributes to 50%. The rest would include the crude oil, the cement and likes. After that comes the position of food grains, where 5% of the total freight earning of railway is coming from food grain transportation. As we see that if 381 million ton worth food grain was transported in the country, 306 out of that was transported by railway. It is not just important from the perspective of railway, it is also perspective from the importance of food security of in India per se. That around 80% of the food grain that is moved in India is moved by the railway sector. That showcases a lot of greater interdependencies on one hand, but also from the perspective of railway, it showcases that there is an exposure to the vulnerability of certain commodities. If there is something to happen to these commodities, if there is some disruption there, it would make a major toll on the railway's finances. Then if we talk about the capital expenditure ratio, over the period of time it has although increased, but it is still not more than 50%. Half of the railway expenditure is catered to by the revenue expenditure side only. We are not able to promote more and more infrastructure development there. Majority of money is spent on the salaries and pensions of the railway employee, because it is one of the largest employers in India. The operational capacity concerns is something that we all are very well related to. We all have traveled by train and we relate that how far it is common to say in India that train would be arriving at a delay of 5 hours, 10 hours, 7 hours. That is very common, especially in the times of fog, in time of winter, when the weather turns to be harsh. There are execution delays in the projects that we all relate to. The problem related to the land acquisition, the problem related to the various approval that are required from various ministries and department. If you take the example of the previous Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed rail project, we see that as per the government estimate, only 55% of the progress has been achieved. The program was announced way back in the last decade, and it is still not very near the completion. It is not there. There are these program related execution delays. There are limitations in terms of the finances that railway has. There are also problem of safety. If you remember last year when Kumbh was being organized, at least 30 people lost their life while standing on the track. You would also remember the Balasore tragedy that happened 2 years ago. Number of cases have been happening that raises a concern on the safety of railway travel in India. And the shocking thing is that out of those, around 55% of these incidents that causes fatality in the railway accident are caused by human errors that are completely avoidable in certain instances at least. There have been steps that have been taken, steps like Govt system, steps like ABS, which is automatic block signaling. These have been innovated. The technological integration has been done, but to what extent? That is a question. The slow progress in terms of this integration of this safety mechanism is a major roadblock that is hampering the safety of railway in India. If you see the data, only around 1400 of the 68,000 kilometer track that we discussed, only around 1400, that causes around 2.14% of the railway track is covered with this Kavach installation system. Then we have this ABS, it is only catering to the 6.47% of the total track length. That showcases the lackadaisical approach in railway safety in India. Apart from that, we have the environmental and social issues concerning the railway use in India, the issue of land acquisition, the various protests by the tribals and the Adivasis that are happening, especially in the Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed railway project. The track passes through the forested land where tribal reside, and there have been multifarious protests by them. This raises the concern of social issues. We saw the project execution delays in terms of Chenab project as well. It is one of the world's highest bridge at 359 meter height. That is commendable, but then it took around 46 years to get completed because of this environmental and social issues, as well as the lack of finances to ensure the technological integration of new technology. In summation, what does this entail? It needs a greater overhaul of railway sector in India. And how do we go about it? Of course, by the scientific advice, by the expert advice. There have been certain committees that have been formed in India regarding the improvement of railway infrastructure, regarding the improvement of railway safety in India. What did they say? Starting with the first committee, Bibek Debroy committee, what did it suggest? It suggested of separation of policy, separation of Ministry of Railways from the day-to-day operations of railways per se. There, instead of this, what did it suggest? It suggested for a railway regulatory authority, an independent body which would be regulating the railway sector. Ministry should be separated. There must be an arm's length distance in between them. This independent regulator would be a technical body which would be functioning as regarding other regulators of our country. For example, the SEBI, for example, the RBI, for example, the PFRDA. All of them are regulators which are separated from the ambit of Ministry of Finance. These are independent body who know what they are doing. They are not filled with generalists. And this is what the Bibek Debroy committee suggested. They also suggested for corporatization of the production unit. Why? So that when corporatization is done, there would be more target-based approach. There would be more accountability of productions. The rakes or the coaches that they are producing, they would be done in a manner to meet the annual target of as if a corporate company would chase those targets. So if we do the corporatization of production unit, at least the production of railway coaches, the production of rakes would be getting at a higher pace. That would enhance the speed of infrastructure development in railways. If we talk about Niti Aayog, they suggested for rationalization of these fares. As we discussed that around 57% only is the amount that the railway is about to recover from the passengers. They sought a rationalization of the fares, which basically means enhancing the fares. At least the upper classes, including the third AC, second AC, first AC, they must be paying for what the services they are getting in return. It should not be cross-subsidized from the freight. Whatever profit we are earning from the freights department, we must be utilizing them in the infrastructural promotion. We must encourage the PPPs in station, freight, rolling stock. This means that public-private partnership, as we discussed, is being used in the Tejas train, but they are solely limited right now to running of these trains. They do not cater to the development of infrastructure. Rather, if we involve their technical expertise in management of stations, in management of freights, in management of rolling stock, production of them, it would enhance a greater hands-on approach. It would enhance the funding sources for these tasks of station, freight and rolling stock. It would thus enhance the overall development of railway sector in India. If we talk about the Vijay Kelkar committee, it suggested for asset monetization for infrastructural financing. What is this asset monetizing we are talking about? There are various assets that the government, especially the railway, holds. The land parcel that it holds around the station area, for example, the parcel space, parking lots, ATM, commercial areas, these could be developed in the land parcel of assets of railway. The less utilized assets should give away to more efficient utilization of these assets of railway. That would open up the locked capital and would enhance the revenue that is required for developing the infrastructure, for enhancing the railway safety in India. There is a scope of more non-revenue based sources, non-fare based revenue sources. For example, the NIN FRIS policy, which means the new and innovative non-fare revenue sources for railway. It would enhance commercial use of railway premises by developing the khadi, handicraft, jewelry kiosk. These things, commercial spaces would be utilized there. New and innovative use of these spaces, for example, development of EV charging kiosk there, development of online education kiosk there. This would utilize the space, this would utilize the non-fare revenue of railway. It would enhance that revenue that could be utilized and channelized for other resources. Then we can earn more revenue from ad and branding. The trains could be wrapped for brands that would earn some revenue for the railways. Then we can have enhanced the passenger revenue by raising the and rationalizing the fare, as was suggested by Niti Aayog. There could also be greater expansion of the dynamic pricing that we introduced. Earlier there used to be fixed price for the train ticket. Now we are utilizing the dynamic prices, but it is still restricted to the major trains like Rajdhani and the upper class trains. It should rather be utilized in almost all the trains, keeping in mind the interest of efficiency, keeping in mind the idea of early bird discount, something that the airlines in India are also using. We can have freight revenue. Their revenue can also be enhanced by expanding the infrastructure in the more demanded areas. We could even run trains for the more demanded route, for example Delhi to Howrah. This could be run in the passenger segment as well as the freight segment. We can have liberalized automatic freight rebate scheme for traffic loaded in empty flow direction. What does this mean? For example, if a freight train is traveling from one location like Delhi to Howrah with the load, but while returning it does not get the load, at least in that dimension they must provide to the operators some rebate, so that the discount would entice the people to use railway as a freight mechanism. That would enhance the proportion of railway which had declined to 30% from 87% earlier, as we discussed. So this rebate scheme would be acting as a discount mechanism, thereby enhancing the revenue by expanding the volume, if not by margins. Then overall we can have multimodal cargo terminal as envisaged by the National Gati Shakti program, where we would be integrating the whole development of railway, roadways, waterway, airports, all of them in a multimodal terminals, which would enhance the last mile connectivity of infrastructure in India and overall contribute to the reduction of logistic cost in India. This is a major plank of our development theory. For example, in India versus China, if we see, as per a cost of GDP, India spends around 14% of its GDP in logistic cost only. Compare that to China, they spend around 8 to 9%. This difference of 4 to 5% is enough to give China an edge when it comes to the exports. That is why our exports are not as competitive as compared to China. If we take these steps, if we enhance the revenues of our railway, if we enhance the safety of our railways, the ratio or the proportion of money that we spend on the logistics would reduce. But it is not just about the revenue. We also have to use this revenue to channelize it for the right purposes, to channelize it for the infrastructure, to channelize it for the safety, so that it serves the purpose of being the people's carrier, carrying the aspirations of our nation. With this, we give you a practice question. Kindly attempt it, kindly write it and get it evaluated from your mentors. We move to the next topic. The next topic is a very interesting topic, from rank to cadre, the new UPSC cadre policy, or rather the DOPT's cadre policy. Recently, the DOPT has unveiled the new cadre allocation policy 2026, which has superseded the previous policy in place since 2017. We are taking a lowdown on what does it change for you as an aspirant of UPSC. See, you have been asked this question in the year 2014 by UPSC itself, that how cadre-based civil service organization has been the cause of slow change in India. Critically examine. They want you to know the issues with the cadre-based services, also the benefit that this cadre-based organization of civil services in India provides. But if you see in practical terms, apart from this academic theory, you would also have listened to this news. It has always made headline that despite scoring the rank 1 in the year 2016, the most famous IAS officer of India, Ms. Tina Dabi, she could not get her desired cadre. She wanted to serve in Haryana as an IAS officer, but she could not get that cadre in that year. She became an IAS officer posted in Rajasthan cadre. Why this happened? Because there is something like a category wise distribution of vacancies that is notified before the exam, and under that, if Haryana for the year 2015 did not have any insider or outsider vacancy for the particular caste that she belonged to, it meant that she could not be allocated the cadre of Haryana that year. That means she could not be getting her desirable cadre despite scoring rank 1. This is likely even now. If somebody wants to clear IAS and get rank 1, even then it is not a guarantee that you would get the cadre of your choice. The thing is not just true for Haryana, but all the others say there has to be a vacancy in the desired caste that you belong to, insider vacancy or outsider vacancy belonging based on which states you belong to enable you to get the desired cadre of your choice. Now this game has even stiffened further. They have changed the rule of cadre allocation even stricter to make this more not based on your rank but on various other external factors as well. But before we get down to the deep of it, what is cadre and how does it matter so much? Cadre, if you understand, it is basically the administrative unit of a civil services which gives a fixed strength of post in the state, that in this state these many IAS officer or IPS officer are required. As per the article 312, they have classified that the Rajya Sabha, which is the Council of State, it would pass a resolution by 2/3 majority to enable the parliament to create a new All India services. Right now, we have 3 All India services, the IAS, the IPS and the Indian Forest Services. Earlier, we only had IAS and IPS. By the amendment of Indian All India Service Act 1951, in the year 1966, we enabled the IFOS also, the Forest Service also, to come into this All India Service. So, All India Service means that they are part of a process. They are recruited by UPSC, which is a central constitutional body. They could be posted in one of the states, which would be called as their cadre. They would have the option to come to center for on deputation, but for all reasons, they would be permanently allocated to the cadre that they have been allocated at the beginning of their services. So it would be making sure of the geographical area of your professional life where you would be working the 30-35 years of your life after you have been selected in the civil services, in the All India services. It is a life altering decision, but mind you, it is a decision that you take after your exam is cleared, or at least after the mains exam when you fill your DAF form. That is when it matters that which cadre you would be filling first. Now, this cadre is important because it is going to shape the administrative exposure, the language that you would be working in, the governance style that you would be exposed to. All of this would depend on the state that you get as a cadre. It is an idea of balancing merit, federalism as well as national integration. The idea of All India Services is to create a stronger union. If you understand, this is one of the unitary feature of our federal structure. We also have state civil services, where states are recruiting the officers that they need and they conduct their exams through their state public service commissions. But we have a central body which conducts the exam for the states as well as union. We have the IAS officer and the IPS officer who are then allocated cadre. They are still managed and controlled by the President of India. They could not be removed unless by the order of President of India. They are given this constitutional safeguard. This acts as a unitary feature of our federal structure of our constitution. But what has changed now in this new cadre policy? Why are we discussing it? If we talk about the earlier policy, the classification of Indian territory was done on the basis of zones. They had divided the Indian territory on the basis of some geographical and cultural factors, where, for example, the zone 1 included the northwestern state of Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan. People having cultural affinity, if somebody belongs to Punjab, they would also be as comfortable or little bit less comfortable in Rajasthan and Haryana. But it was not as much a cultural shock as to serve in a disparate state of, let's say, Meghalaya or Sikkim or Chhattisgarh, which are very uniquely different in their geography as well as culture. So they had classified the regions in certain zones, 5 zones. Zone 2 included the eastern India, UP, Bihar, Jharkhand and Odisha. Zone 4 included majorly the northeastern state. Zone 5 included the Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, the southern states of India. Now they have completely randomized it. Instead of 5 zones, they have now 4 groups that are alphabetically arranged. It does not make any distinction between the region, between the topography, between the geographical contiguity of those states. For example, Andhra Pradesh and AGMUT Cadre, which includes the state of Arunachal, Goa, Mizoram, they are clubbed together in group 1. State of Gujarat and Haryana, despite the differences, are clubbed together. Maharashtra is clubbed with Nagaland because N comes after M. It is just a pure alphabetical origin. It is algorithm based and not discretion based system that we have come to. Also now what we have more interestingly is a 25 rank cycle system. Earlier what used to happen is that there used to be a demand for some popular state used to be more. If you see this cadre allocation of the year 2024 toppers, which was done in the year 2025, you see that among the top 10, at least 4 of them were allocated the cadre of Uttar Pradesh. Some of them chose it, some of them kept as their second choice. But what it leads to is that of these top 10 rankers, which are of course people with a lot of merit, most of them are concentrated in only certain popular states, certain very desirous states which have a lot of opportunity. Uttar Pradesh is one of the largest economy of India. It is second largest economy. It has a diverse play field. It has a diverse work environment. And of course, the opportunity to work with Mr. Yogi Adityanath, that is an added advantage. So perhaps people have been choosing it. But what about other states? States like Punjab, states like Sikkim, do they not deserve the candidates who are meritorious, at least who come in the top 10 or top 20? Why do they have to be the states who are not chosen but rather treated as a fait accompli? That should not be the case. So to equitably distribute the merit-based candidates, they have come up with this 25 rank system. Under this system of 25 rank cycle, for example, there are 3 students, 3 aspirants who got the rank 7, rank 10 as well as rank 16. Now they belong to one particular state and they want the insider quota in that state. This 25 is significant number because there are only 25 cadres that are available in our country. Some of the cadres have 2 or more than 2 states also. For example, Assam, Meghalaya is considered as one cadre. AGMUT including Arunachal, Goa, Mizoram as well as the other UT of Delhi, Chandigarh, that is counted as one cadre. So we have 25 such cadres. So from rank 1 to 25, only once would this cadre be having one space empty, one vacancy would be there. For these people, ranking 7, 10 and 16, the rank 7 person, he would get the desirable state in the first cycle. Next, from the 25 to 50, after this, one time the cadre is filled, from the 25 to 50, again the cadre would be open to the second person who got the rank 10. He may choose the insider vacancy in the second cycle when it would be counted from 26 to 50. The serial number 16 person, he would be occupying the third cycle, and if the seat remains still vacant from the rank 51 to 75, he would get a chance to have that cadre allocated to him. That means even under rank 25, you would still not be guaranteed your cadre. It is going to be a very randomized system. You have to fill those things very carefully. Other changes that they have done is that you have to mandatorily opt for a home cadre if you wish to serve in your home state. You cannot not opt for home cadre and then desire to serve in that state. In the second list, then you would not be considered. After the insider vacancy, you would not even be considered for the outsider vacancy in that state if you have not opted for your home cadre. There is also annual group rotation. For the year 26, since this policy would be applicable for the upcoming exam of year 2026, For the year 26, the groups would be rotated in this manner, like group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. First rank 1 to 25 rank would be having the first choice of group 1. Then the next time in the year 2027 it would happen that group 2 would come at the first place. So 1 to 25 would have the choice to fill any of those group from group 2. Thus, it is going to ensure a group based rotation every year. Annually it would be done. It is going to ensure the time bound allocation. They have fixed the time limit now. What is the time limit? Every year on the 1st of January, the seat or the vacancies in every state would be notified. It would be freezed. It would be frozen at that time, and states would be given a time of 1 month, that by the time of 31st of January of that year, the state would have to showcase their requisition, that how many officers they require in that state. On the basis of that, and they would be making the breakup of these vacancies in all the states. Inter-category insider exchange is also something that is now allowed. For example, in a state, if a insider vacancy is there for unreserved category which is remained unfulfilled, if it is remained empty, then an SC category candidate could be given that seat, given that there is some other SC outsider vacancy that is also existing, which could be swapped with that. Insider SC is given the insider unreserved category seat. So to keep the proportion of SCs same, they would swap the outsider vacancy with the other insider SC vacancy. Another aspect of this is priority to the people with disabilities. This is a continuation from the previous policy, where people with benchmark disabilities, they would be kept on the priority list of allocation of home cadre. They would not be asked to travel too much away from their home cadre. So their priority has been retained in the new policy as well. What is the significance now? These are the technical changes that happen, but how does this impact you as an aspirant? How does this impact our administrative structure? That is what we are going to discuss now. The idea here is to promote the national integration. You see, earlier we had clubbed the region in a certain geographical and socio-cultural aspect. They were similar in the socio-culture domain. They were similar in the geography and topography. So people belonging to one region would want to remain at least in that region, if not in that state. People belonging to Uttar Pradesh, especially the eastern Uttar Pradesh, would still be comfortable or somewhat comfortable when they are staying in Bihar. So it did not reduce the idea of parochialism. It would still be giving the idea of having the regional bias. That is something that is going to be uprooted now under this new policy. There would not be a common clubbing of zones. People would now be rather given groups on the basis of alphabetical order, which is a very algorithm based thing, which is not going to take a lot of, which would not entail a lot of political biasness or a lot of political lobbying that could have existed earlier. This is going to standardize the vacancy determination, as we have fixed the date as 1st of Jan and 31st of Jan for receiving the requisition from the state. There is not going to be any last minute changes in that. This would reduce the complexity in the process. The vacancy would be standardized earlier. It would enhance the human resource management policies of the state, and it would optimize the cadre gap management. For certain states which are overfilled with the bureaucrats and certain states which are not having enough number of bureaucrats, it would enhance the balance between them. The states which have more number of officers, they would have their vacancy reduced over the period of time, because there is a fixed timeline now, there is a fixed grouping that is available now. It is going to simplify the zonal complexities. Earlier, while filling the DAF form, it used to be a very complex process for the candidates, because one had not just only to choose a group, not just have to choose a zone. For example, they had chosen a zone A. Under that, they also had to fill a choice 1, choice 2, like in a zone 2. For example, they had the northwestern states. Under that, you would have choice, let's say choice 1 as Punjab, choice 2 as, let's say, Haryana, choice 3 as Rajasthan. This made it very complex, and then you would choose another zone, zone B. Under that also you would choose some choice states. Now you don't have to do anything. You just have to fill your group choice, and that would also be periodically revised, group A, B, C, D, and on the basis of that you would be allocated the cadre. It is going to ensure this time bound allocation of these cadre also, because the process has been streamlined. Before an officer trainee is reaching Labasna, since the cadre has been frozen on the January 31st, it would have been finalized by then, they would know for sure that which cadre are they belonging to. It would make sure that manpower planning is done in a predictable manner. There are no any last minute changes there. Then we have the rule based algorithmic allocation, which is reducing the discretion. The similar thing that we discussed, that it is an algorithm based program. There is no much scope for political dilly-dallying in this. The whole idea here is that as was envisaged by the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, that the idea of All India Service is to create a stronger union. They wanted that you will not have a united India if you do not have a good All India Service which do not have the freedom to speak their mind. And this is precisely the objective that is being fulfilled by this new cadre allocation policy of 2026. They want a cadre of civil services which are incorrigible in nature, which are not working for fear or favor, not in the demand of any extraneous reward, not having the parochialism for their region, and this is something that this policy seeks to entail. This is about it. This is a practice question for you. Kindly attempt it and get it evaluated from your mentors. Moving to the next topic, Lancet Healthcare's report on India's healthcare system. It is a remarkable report given by the Lancet Group, which is a journal, world's most renowned journal in the medical field, started in the year 1823. They actually do a public policy advocacy of the healthcare sector, and they have established certain commissions which have published a report on India's healthcare sector progress. The chairman of this commission was Mr. Vikram Patel, who is a co-chairman as well as a professor at Harvard Medical School. In his interview, he has showcased to us that certain progress has been achieved. There has been a remarkable shift in India's healthcare sector. Earlier, there used to be an excuse that was given that there is a lack of political will in India. There is an underfunding of healthcare sector in India. The human resources in India are inadequate. They are not meeting the WHO standards. There is lack of awareness about services. These generic reasons that were given for India, according to this Lancet study, do not hold much water now. They say that India has made a lot of progress in these dimensions, and the challenges, although still persist, they have more structural reasons. They are more structural and behavioral in aspect. India has certainly showcased on the global platform that there have been progress in human resources. There have been progress in healthcare aspect of human resources. We have more number of people serving the healthcare sector in India. Before we discuss these challenges of uneven quality of care as well as these other factors, let's see what this report is trying to tell us. They have not given the facts, they have not given us the dimensions. We have taken this from the government sources, which showcases a certain degree of rise in progress in the healthcare sector in India over the period of time. If you look at the number of National Health Mission, which is the umbrella scheme for health sector in India, the budgetary allocation itself has increased by 70% in past 10 years, rising from 21,000 crore to 37,000 crore in the past 10 years from 2014 to 2024. If we take a look at the human resources for health, that's where the major jump lies. We have seen nearly a 3 times increase in this number of resources that we allocate for the healthcare sector. The human resources, the salaries that we give for these healthcare workers. The number of ASHA workers also seen a certain degree of rise. We have seen a 15% increase from 8.95 lakh to 10.30 lakh people working as the ASHA worker in India now. The rise in primary healthcare sector also seen around a 50% rise or a 48% rise. This showcases what? This showcases that the healthcare sector, including the human resources of the healthcare sector, are certainly a progress, a plank that has been achieved. In case of mobile medical unit, although the progress has been very marginal, but it is a progress nonetheless. Apart from human resources in the healthcare sector, the finances has been streamlined to the extent that the world's largest private healthcare insurance plan, public healthcare insurance plan that allows for treatment in the private hospital has been launched in India, which is known as the Ayushman Bharat. Not just the center scheme, also the state level initiative that has been taken in this regard are worth mentioning. For example, the Punjab government's Mukhyamantri Sehat Yojana, which is providing free treatment up to 10 lakh rupees for all the families in Punjab. It allows for cashless treatment at around 900 plus impaneled hospital. This showcases to us that to all, the idea of universal healthcare is reaching. At least it is promoted now. There is no lack of political will, there is no lack of awareness about these issues. There are things that are working on the ground. But despite this, there are certain lacunae that we need to address in our healthcare sector. What are those? First is the uneven quality of care. Despite the schemes, we are having a preventable death of 1.6 million people, around 16 lakh people dying because of reason that could have very well been prevented. We have inefficiencies in the healthcare sector spending. As per the national health policy, at least 2.5% of the GDP is something that we should spend on the healthcare sector. We are not at that number. We are at around 1.8% of GDP. It is minuscule compared to the targets. The budget, even if it is allocated, even if it is less than what is required, it is still remaining underutilized. Why? Because of the fear of the 3 C's, the CAG, the CVC as well as the CIC. This does not let the officials to utilize the earmark budget, and this has the impact on the overall healthcare system of India. It is leading to the death of people which could have very well been avoided. We have fragmented delivery of services. For example, there is a public-private divide. Of course, we have seen the rise in the number of beds availability, but then 65% of these beds are in private hospitals. Despite having the insurance, even in this Mukhyamantri Sehat Yojana, we have major hospitals of Punjab which are not empaneled. There are issues of payment to these hospitals, so they do not provide as seamless services to the citizen. Then we do not have a national level data sharing platform that showcases us the real-time progress in the bed availability. Even if somebody would go to the hospital on their own, there is a out-of-pocket burden they have to bear. Although it has reduced from around 67% earlier to only around 47%, but still that showcases that half of all the money spent in healthcare is spent out of the people's pocket. Somebody may have it, somebody may not. But for the want of money, nobody should be denied the healthcare. That is a basic human right. We have the issue of circular arrangement, where people are made to run from pillar to post to get their checkups done, to get their health care done. People may have access to hospital, but what about the diagnostic? What about the medicine availability? All of these are located at different places that reduces the seamless availability of healthcare system at one place. Issue of poor governance is also marring the aspect of healthcare in India, because we have a specialist shortfall. We have an urban-rural disparity. Despite the fact that India has enhanced the number of doctors, earlier the ratio of WHO was 1:1000. For every 1000 people, there must be one doctor. We have surpassed that level. We have one doctor for 834 people, which is a good thing. But then there is a regional inequity there. There is an urban-rural divide there. We have doctor density in urban India is 4 times higher than the rural India. So in rural areas in the hinterland of our country, people are not having access to doctors as they should. We have rising national ratio, but not rising the availability of doctors at remote places of India. That is still a cause of concern. Then what do we do about it? We showcased the idea of rising ASHA workers as one of the plank of human resources, but right now they are on the streets of Kolkata, fighting for their rights, fighting for rise in their wages. And this is precisely what we can start with. We can ensure that community-led governance of healthcare structure is done. The involvement of Panchayati Raj institution is enhanced so that the accountability of these local workers could be ensured. In the structural manner, we should have the public sector as a backbone of infrastructure, healthcare infrastructure in India. As we saw that 65% beds are with private sector, it is not giving seamless availability of healthcare to the poor people. Rather, enhancing the infrastructure of public sector hospital, for example, the district hospital or the medical colleges run by the state governments, if they are enhanced, it would enhance the availability, accessibility and affordability of healthcare sector for all. We must ensure the decentralized integrated delivery. There must be interlinkages of the various institutions of healthcare. The 3-tiered structure of healthcare system in India, the primary health center, the sub-center, as well as the secondary hospital, as well as the top-tiered AIIMS, as well as Institute of Eminence of Healthcare, they must be seamlessly interlinked, they must be seamlessly integrated with the diagnostic center as well as medicine availability. We should enhance the interlinkages with the PMBJP scheme, which is Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. It would link these hospitals, it would reduce the inconvenience that is caused to the people by running from pillar to post for these services. We can have outcome-based financing. The idea of budgeting should not be as just a data entry in the books, in the journals. It should also be how outcome has changed, how many people have reduced anemia because of expenditure on healthcare, how much we have life expectancy has increased because of expenditure on healthcare. That is what we should be targeting, not just the numbers. Workforce empowerment by formalizing these ASHA workers, by integrating Ayush doctors into the medical fraternity, that would enhance the availability of these healthcare workers at least the remotest of the locations, so that they are not supposed to make do with the quacks that exist, that leads to a lot of death of people by unscientific methods. So we must empower them, we must train them, we must have the capacity building program being done, so that a seamlessly integrated workforce for healthcare sector could be ensured. We must have a digital infrastructure that could be integrated. The idea of blockchain based technology for accessing the records of the patient at one place, real time access of them. The idea of a national digital health mission which has created a unique ID for patients. This would ensure a comprehensive patient records are available at all times. This would enhance the outcome of the healthcare system as well, while ensuring the data privacy of these patients. If we take these steps in letter and spirit, it would uphold the idea of universal healthcare, which was also enshrined in the Alma Ata Declaration for Healthcare. The topic talks about the new roadmap of National Defense Strategy of USA. It caters to the aspect of paper 2 of IR, where policies and politics of developed countries which are impacting India's interest, impacting Indian diaspora, is something that we must read from the perspective of GS paper 2. US has unveiled this new national defense strategy, which is now an unclassified document. They want to make America great again. They want to restore peace in the world in the new golden age of America, apparently. That is what this strategy is about. But how does this impact India? What changed in this strategy is what we are going to discuss. If we try to decode the news, we see a policy shift that has happened over China and Russia. If we talk about the 2018 National Defense Strategy of Donald Trump, it talked about that how China and Russia wanted to shape a world which is consistent with their authoritarian model of governance. Now, the language has softened. What does this say about them? It says that they do not want to defeat China, they don't want to humiliate or strangulate them. Rather, they prefer a stable peace, fair trade and respectful relation with China. They are basically seemingly softened their stance on China and Russia. To do that, they have also signaled a message to the allies. While it wants to deter China, while USA wants to balance China by using the allies of EU as well as India, it wants the allies to take a note of enhancing their contribution to their national security. They do not want to keep subsidizing the national security of these nations. That is the message for allies of EU as well as India. Also, there is a geographical anchoring of policy that has been done. What does this mean? While the earlier shift of policy from Asia to Indo-Pacific happened during the previous phase of Barack Obama as well as Donald Trump, there has been a geographical re-anchoring of it, because in the policy focus, we do not find a mention of India at all. India is conspicuously absent here. While China has been mentioned more than 15 times, space has been occupied by Venezuela, space has been occupied by Iran. So geographical prominence of region of Indo-Pacific, it seems it has waned for America. If we see, they have not even mentioned South Asia, they have not even mentioned Afghanistan or Indo-Pak as a region. Now, what is this showcasing to us? There is an evolution of the policy. During the Obama administration, we saw the strategic pivot, which was the pivot to Asia policy that was functioning. There was Trans-Pacific Partnership that they promoted. They wanted India to join the RCEP program. In the Trump administration, we had formalized the free and open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. The whole talks of Quad, it was renewed. In the Biden administration, the policy focus remained on Indo-Pacific, even though it did not include India. There was promotion of organization like AUKUS, which was a military and a strategic organization including Australia, UK and US. There was partnership in the Blue Pacific, which promoted the transparent financing of infrastructure project in light of assertive China's debt trap policies. This was what has been happening, but in this policy, Indo-Pacific, it seems, has lost its prime importance. Even in the Europe, they don't want to keep subsidizing the defense of European. They want them to step up. They have said that the support for USA, support from USA would now become limited, although it would remain critical, but would be now limited in number. So what does this entail for India? India, which has a very huge trade surplus with USA of $40 billion, it is one of the largest trading partner of India. Our foundation is not just a transactional but also a developmental partnership, because USA per se stands as the third largest contributor to the FDI of India after Singapore and Mauritius. We also see that USA India share a lot of diplomatic ties in terms of diaspora. Indian diaspora community is contributing to the tech progress that is happening in USA. Despite these factors, despite having revitalized the Quad, this new strategy has given a message on Quad that while it is vital to deter and balance China, they would have to take up the stage on their own. USA is moving away from minilateralism like Quad. The Quad, which is a grouping of India, USA, Japan and Australia, is now seemingly losing its importance from the perspective of national defense strategy, as it is anchoring to the newer geographical location which is of prime importance to the Trump policy. The idea of Western Hemisphere, which is dominated by the new policy of Monroe and Donald Trump. This is reducing the impact of India on the policy of USA. This is reducing the importance of India on the USA's Indo-Pacific policy. What does this entail for India? That despite the strategic convergences that happened in the past, despite we having signed 4 foundational agreement, a lot of logistic exchange program happening, lot of defense trade happening, there is a growing divergences now in the policies. India needs to adopt the policy of multi-alignment now, and that is showcased in the light of recent FTA that is going to be signed tomorrow between India and EU. This is the idea of multi-alignment. This is the age of strategic autonomy that India has to keep on exercising. The next topic talks about a very disturbing news of a Manipur man who was killed on camera. The video was circulating widely on internet. It had the impact of disrupting the public order in the society. So government has decided to ban it. But now we will discuss that what is this mechanism of banning the videos that circulate on the social media platform. Who has the authority? What is the legal and constitutional background for it? If we see this violence, it had the order of disrupting the public order. It had the impact of disrupting the public order. So government has banned it. Government has asked the social medias to take down those videos. Why? Because it is a reasonable restriction on the fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression. Under Article 19, Clause 1, Clause A, one has the fundamental right to freedom of speech and expression. To exercise those rights, somebody would have put that video online. But also under Article 19, Clause 2, there is a reasonable restriction that exists on the exercise of this right, which include for maintaining public order, for maintaining security of the state, for maintaining territorial integrity, sovereignty and unity of India. A reasonable restriction could be imposed in this fundamental right of freedom of speech and expression. As per that, they have used the Section 69A of the IT Act 2000, which allows them to give directions to the social media intermediaries to take down those materials. Although there is a need for balancing this, because it is a constitutionally recognized right as per the Anuradha Bhasin case of 2019, it gave right to internet as part of fundamental right, because it is impacting our livelihood, it is impacting our free speech. So there is a need for balancing this. To ensure this balance, there have been constitutional safeguards that have been provided in the laws that govern this freedom of speech and expression in India. Despite them, there have been various reports that call India as the shutdown capital of the world. Not only we allow for takedown of such videos, which is of course in the national interest right now, but in other cases, there have been widespread or very frequent use of internet shutdown orders being passed. As per a report by Internet Freedom Foundation, at least 127 times between the year 2020 to 2022, internet has been shut down. And for 30% of the time, you know the reason, it was just to conduct an examination without cheating. Despite that, we have been having leakages in the examination, cheating cases in the examination have been happening. For such reasons also, we are restricting internet in India. That is a cause of concern. Given the nature of this process, there is a streamlined mechanism that is available in our country to govern the idea of taking down of certain videos. Once an objectionable video is detected, the request is shared by the government agency or by the courts. The request is received by the MeitY, which is the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology in India. There is a designated officer that exists in that ministry. Then a blocking committee is constituted, which reviews the request of blocking such access to the content. Once that committee gives its recommendation to the Secretary of MeitY, he passes the order to block certain content under the power that is derived from the section 69A of the Information Technology Act 2000. Once that is done, this intermediary or platform, which include Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, they would block these videos and it would not be accessible to the public anymore. That is what has been done now. However, there is a clarification that is required, that what if it is not done? What if even after this order, the request has not been complied to, it has not been taken down? There are two sections that exist in our Act. The request is sent under this section 69A of the IT Act, which give power to the government to promote blocking of any content if it violates the sovereignty, integrity, defense or security of India. However, if the institution, if the intermediary does not adhere to this, they lose their safe harbor protection. What is the safe harbor protection? That the content on a social media platform like Instagram is not promoted, is not created by the Instagram itself. It is created by some external user who uses this as a platform. So this platform per se has some safe harbor protection, that I do not know where this content came from and I am not responsible for it. This is the protection that is given to them, but only on the condition that when this platform itself is now being directed by the government, that the particular content that this creator posted is not in interest of India, it is violating these factors of sovereignty, integrity, defense, security of state, then it must be removed. If it is not being removed, then this safe harbor protection that was given to this platform would now cease to exist. This was the provision in the IT Act 2000 also. Now under the DPDP Act or Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023, which has further strengthened the norms, strengthened the rules as well as enhanced the penalties. If such contents are not blocked as per the direction of the government, the impact of non-compliance of these direction, it would entail the penalty of around 250 crore rupees, because these institutions, these intermediaries are considered as a data fiduciary, where people have kept their private data in trust, in fiduciary capacity. This platform is holding them. They cannot violate the right of the data. They have to remove the content that is required by the government. If they do not, they would lose their safe harbor protection and they would also be subjected to certain penalties under the DPDP Act as well. So this was the issue for you. Moving to the next topic, EU leader begins PM visit, PM flags trade and mobility pacts. That idea here is, we are not going to discuss the impact of the EU's visit, what is going to entail for India. That will keep for after the visit has happened, after the free trade agreement has signed. But we'll discuss EU as an institution first. There are certain confusing terms that exist in EU. EU, as we know, is the group of 27 countries of European Union. It is basically a political and economic union of these countries of Europe. The foundation of EU is considered to be by the Maastricht Treaty of 1993, although it actually predates it, because there was something known as European Economic Council of 1957, which was signed by the Treaty of Rome. But formally, statutory, Maastricht Treaty is what governs the entry and exit out of the European Union. So this is what we would remember. The objective of it is the economic integration, free movement, peace and cooperation in EU. If you know that there is a possibility of a Schengen visa, which allows passport-free travel to these nations of EU. Although not all of the nation allow, but once you gain entry to, let's say, Germany, and you want to travel to France, you do not need any further visa to travel across this. This is the Schengen visa zone. It is a visa-free travel. It allows for greater mobility among the people of EU zone. Some of these nations, they use euro as currency. At least 20 of these nations use euro as their common currency. They do not have their separate currency like India has or with Pakistan has. Different nation having different currency is a fact. But in EU, at least 20 of these nations are using a common currency. Certain nations like Switzerland, they are having their own currency. Swiss franc is what they use. Idea is that movement of goods, services, capital and people should be freely available. There must be free travel of people, there must be free movement of capital, free movement of ideas also. That is the whole idea of European Union, so that they can trade in masse, they can negotiate in masse, and that is what they are trying to do with India now. Instead of dealing of India with every unique small countries of Austria, Hungary, Slovakia, Instead of that, India is now able to negotiate a free trade agreement with this bloc as a whole. It is an economic union that is negotiating the whole FTA with India. But when we see the news, there are two people that are coming to India. One is Miss Ursula von der Leyen, who is the President of European Commission, and then President of European Council, who is Mr. Antonio Costa. This person and this person. What is the difference between them? European Union, if you understand, is not just one bloc. It is composed of various other institutions. Some of them include European Parliament, European Council, Council of European Union and European Commission. Apart from that, they are supplemented in the work by Court of Justice of European Union, European Central Bank, European Court of Auditors. Largely, the capital of EU or the European Union is located at Brussels, which is located in Belgium. But these specific institutions, they have their separate location. For example, European Central Bank is located in Frankfurt in Germany, which is the financial center or the financial capital of whole of Europe. We talk about the European Council, it is headquartered at Brussels. The Council of European Union at Brussels as well as Luxembourg. So, out of these institutions, the two of the most important, whose role we need to understand, the people from which were coming to India as the Republic Day guest of honor. If we talk about the differences, if we understand European Council, it is primarily managed by the head of the state of these European nations. The head of the state, the head of the government are the members of the European Council. On the other hand, the commissioners that are appointed by these nations are part of this European Commission. So, while European Council is actually the higher body which sets the overall direction of the European Union, European Commission on the other hand is basically the implementary body. It proposes and implements the EU laws that are framed by the Parliament of European Union. It is basically, you could understand that these are like the ministers and these are like the bureaucrats. That is the prime difference between European Council and the European Commission. There is no law making power with the European Council. Law are made by the European Parliament, but the law are proposed by the European Commission. The policy execution is not their task because these are the head of the states, head of government. They don't have the time for this. It is done by the European Commission. They are the guardian of treaty? No. It is the guardian of treaties, European Commission, who actually caters to the pedantic law system, rules, regulations regarding the entry and exit out of the European Union. If you remember, in the year 2016 to 2020, we had something known as a referendum of UK. So the legal mechanism of the exit of United Kingdom from the EU, it was actually handled by the European Commission, the laws and the implementation of those. The frequency of meeting is only few times a year because the head of the state and the head of the government, they are very busy. They do not meet very often. On the other hand, European Commission is a permanent body. It keeps on functioning in a continuous manner. There is a continuous functioning that happens. If we were to give you an analogy, it is basically the strategic steering committee, which is basically guiding the policy direction. It is steering that. On the other hand, this is formed of bureaucracy, which are basically implementing the law that have been made. This is how you understand the European Council as well as the European Commission, the chairman of both of whom are visiting India for this Republic Day. Starting with the last topic of our day, which is Surajkund's Craft Mela. This is the 39th edition of the International Surajkund Crafts Mela. It is the world's largest crafts fair in the world. It is basically, the idea is to showcase the Indian heritage, Indian craftsman tradition to across the world. People have craftsmen have been coming from across the world to showcase their talent, and Indian tradition of man-made instead of machine-made goods are promoted at this location. Where it is held? It is held at Surajkund, which is a place in the Faridabad district of Haryana. The Mela, the craft fair, actually started in the 1987, but this is in the year 2026, we are celebrating the 39th edition of it. The theme this year is Local to Global, Atmanirbhar Bharat Ki Pehchan. The partner countries of this year's trade is Egypt, whereas there is a collaboration between other states of Uttar Pradesh as well as Meghalaya who are collaborating in this edition of Surajkund Craft Mela. Why are we discussing this? Because it is not just a crafts mela, it is also a soft power policy tool. It is organized by a local body called Surajkund Mela Authority in sync with Haryana Tourism, but also involves the heavyweight of Union Minister of Tourism as well as the Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Culture and Textiles. All of this involved because it is being held at a very strategic location near Delhi, which is known as Surajkund. Surajkund is a city built by, it is basically a lake, a pond which is dedicated to the deity of Surya, the sun god. The pond was built by Surajpal Tomar, the same person who had a bigger brother named Anangpal Tomar. Yes, the same person who constructed the first capital of Delhi. This is also important from our GS paper 1 perspective, because they have been asked us the question regarding the sun temples of India. Which of the following are the famous sun temples of India? Arsavali, Amarkantak, Omkareshwar. Out of them we know Amarkantak and Omkareshwar are the Shiva temple. So they are not the sun temple. On the other hand, Arsavali, which is located in Andhra Pradesh, which is a 8th century sun temple, is a famous temple of India. Answer here would be A, but similar question could be framed from the Surajkund also, which is also dedicated to the sun deity, formed by Surajpal Tomar, built in 10th century CE, built in Faridabad, very near to Delhi, constructed as a water reservoir point, but it has certain features also. You know, this is a site located in the Aravali ranges, which is a historical site. There have been excavation of various Paleolithic and Neolithic site in the nearby region of this, called as Mangarbani village, where we saw a lot of artifacts from the Paleolithic age. And this celebration of crafts fair is remarkably signifying the continuity of craft tradition in India from Stone Age till now. If we talk about the temple structural design, architectural feature of it, it is a semicircular temple with amphitheater like steps are located around this lake. There is a Aravali hill architecture because it belongs to the region of Aravali. The architecture style is called as Aravali region. There are stepped embankment that are created that allow one to go near to the leading down to the water. And it is basically a rainwater harvesting structure in this arid region of northwest India. The region of Haryana and Delhi receive less than 70 centimeter of annual rainfall. So it serves as an environmental tool for promoting sustainable development in the dry region of northwest Haryana. This was it for this topic. Thank you very much.